atWork Australia would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and pay our respect to elders past and present. This podcast is being recorded in the southwest and Western Australia, which is land of the Noongar people. We'd also like to pay our respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from wherever you may be listening from. Hello and welcome everyone to a special edition of Candid Conversations with Shaun. We're bringing you this special edition in line with International Men's Day, which provides an opportunity to talk about the many challenges that men and boys face and encouraging people to speak up to be able to get the support they need. In this episode, we speak with atWork Australia client Jackson, who openly speaks about his mental health concerns and how seeking support has been able to help him to better manage his health condition and ultimately be able to progress on his employment journey. So you've done a bit of podcasting before, I think you mentioned.
Yeah, way back when, and then I did a bit of video game Twitch streaming stuff, so I had to have some good gear for that too.
Yeah, okay, nice one. What type of stories were you talking about, or what were you talking about on your podcast?
Back in mine, I was sort of, we'd play board games, card games. I'd have a camera and we'd do an audio and a video podcast.
Yeah, nice. I'm sure there could have been some funny things happening.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, mate, thanks so much for coming in today to speak to me a bit about your journey and experience with atWork Australia. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem at all.
And I believe you've actually just recently started a new job. How's that all been going? Can you tell us a bit about what you've been doing and tell us all about it?
Pretty good retail job, small team, which is great. I love a small team. I love a close-knit community of workers and the ability to get to know each other and work well in a small group. Yeah, it's interesting. It's just up the road, perfect distance. It's within a 5-minute walk, actually. So I'm really happy about that and being able to just take a stroll and get to work. And yeah, it's great to be back and doing things.
Yeah, nice one. I believe before you started in this role, you sort of had a bit of a gap of employment. We'll get to that in a minute, but can you tell me a bit more about your backstory? Did you grow up in regional Victoria, then you recently moved to Adelaide to pursue new opportunities?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if I'd call it regional Victoria, but people from Adelaide would definitely call it regional Victoria. So I grew up in Portland, which doesn't have a whole lot of opportunities. The best education we've kind of got down that way is TAFE, and it's a lot of trade-based things. And I did start in trade following my family's business, which is waterboard drilling and pump repair, but it never was really what I had passion for. And I met my partner on a trip over here one day, and yeah, we've moved over here, and she loves being closer to her friends, things like that with their family. And yeah, I like it because it's a bit further away from the city, but I'm still within a short train ride to get there, and it's a lot of amenities and a lot of opportunities, and it's really great to be here.
Glad you're enjoying it. And I know when you started, I mentioned from another story in a previous conversation that you've recently started a photography internship. Can you tell us about that and your passion for photography?
Yeah, I've had a massive passion for photography since high school. I tried to do it on my own, and without sort of the means to afford going off to uni and learning, I sort of didn't really get anywhere, especially in a small town. And moving to Adelaide, I thought this is the perfect opportunity to start looking at what's out there. And yeah, I found this internship at Bloom and Grow Marketing. And we're giving an exchange of skills. So I'm bringing my photography skills to the table, and they're teaching me a lot of the marketing and social media management techniques and some graphic design skills. And yeah, it's merging really well. And I'm hoping that I can grow with the company, because it is just a startup at this point, but there's a fantastic team in that startup. So hopefully I can grow with them. And as it becomes a bigger industry, I will hopefully go along with it.
Yeah, so you hope to be able to progress over and become a paid employee for that business as well? Because I read somewhere you were hoping to start your own business one day in media marketing. Is that your long-term goal?
I don't know if it's media marketing, but definitely something in photography. I would like the dream is to be a photo artist. I would love to make photography books and sell them, or make calendars, or just make my photography into an art form, and less so working for someone else and more just working for my own passion. But I think this is a great stepping stone to just getting more skills, more hands-on experience in the industry and making connections.
Oh, you've always got to chase your dream, and if you don't have a crack, then it's never going to evolve, right? So
that's exactly right. Yeah.
I know from a previous conversation you mentioned that you live with PTSD. Can you tell us how does that impact your day-to-day life and your ability to be able to find employment?
Yeah, it's been a long journey sort of managing it. For a long time, I didn't even know what it was. I just felt like I was having panic attacks and being scared all the time and having moments of blackouts and generally sort of forgetting things as well. And yeah, having defenses up and guards up with a lot of things. And then I went and sought help and got some therapy tips and found out that that's what it's most likely, yeah, PTSD, and how to manage those symptoms. And it's, as far as finding employment with it, I think there was a lot of daunting prospects out there for people like me. It's there's a lot of job offers, or not job offers, but job opportunities that were around that I would apply for, and I would apply for them, but I would always sort of have this like feeling in me that it wasn't going to be right for me. I would feel scared about what that first day would look like and how it would go. And I never turned down any work, but it just applying for work and knowing that I might not last a week in this position was very scary. But with also having the desire to work, it was like a conflict of interests, and it was really hard to sort of manage through that. But I thankfully have had some fantastic help through that as well.
Yeah. So you're saying that at times you probably didn't put applications forward because of your uncertainty or unsure of yourself and how you're about to do it?
Sometimes I'd always try and keep, if I seen a job advertising and I went, oh, today's not the day, I don't feel confident in this, I would sleep on it. I'd always leave it till tomorrow. And I'd say 90% of the time I would still give it a crack and apply. But there was just those days where my fear and anxiety was just acting up and I didn't think I was possible to do it. And then I'd always give it a go though. A sleep always helped.
Yeah. I can somewhat relate. I live with a vision impairment, and sometimes, well, years ago now, when I was looking for jobs, I would probably sometimes be hesitant to put my application forward because I wouldn't really know how to explain to an employer about my disability. Do you share information about the challenges you face with a potential employer, or do you choose not to?
I think given the journey I've been through, I've sort of got a successful manage on that PTSD. But I think I would only divulge it if it was an instance where it came to safety with those blackouts and things like that. Sometimes I do worry that being on a job site for too long or being in a stressful environment for too long may cause an issue of safety. But other than that, it's very much something that I try to consider a personal problem, not a workplace problem. Not saying that I don't work on it or I don't talk about it, but just as far as employment goes, if it doesn't come up in employment, it's not really something I talk about.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And when you decided to move to Adelaide, how long was your job seeking journey going for? How long were you unemployed?
So I was actually lucky when I first moved to Adelaide to have a job lined up, but unfortunately management changes caused that position to not be available to me anymore, and I was let go. And then I spent the next 10 months job hunting, and it was a very horrible time through those 10 months. Some of the things we had to do to get by weren't ideal, but there was always sort of help and avenues to keep going.
And you mentioned how about these 10 months and how much of a challenging time. Does that only further impact on your mental health?
It really did, yeah. I'm thankful to have a terrific partner. She has done her absolute best to help support me through this time and in her work, bringing in an income to the house. My parents also were very fantastic, helping where they could. But there was a mental health drain of feeling like a burden to those people who were closest to me. And there were days where I would get constant rejection letters and I just wouldn't want to get out of bed, or I just felt, yeah, too much like a burden on the world, really. It was very difficult.
I'm sorry you had to feel that way, mate, and you're most definitely not a burden on the world. Some people just need the different supports about to navigate through these challenges in life.
Yeah.
And how did atWork Australia support you on this journey? And tell me about the process of coming to atWork Australia and getting started with us.
Yeah, I mean, my provider at atWork was absolutely fantastic. Katrina did an amazing job. She did the sort of what you'd expect, but then went above and beyond in a lot of aspects too. She'd help me with the resumes and finding jobs that weren't advertised, or using her connections to talk with employers, and she did great with that. And then they had a careers expo that they set up that I attended and all that kind of thing. But there was also the attention to helping me on my bad days as well. So there was days where I would go in there feeling panicked. I need a job right now. If I don't get a job, I'm not gonna be able to pay rent, or I'm not gonna be able to eat this week, and things like that. And she'd sort of sit me down when she had the time and help me through it. And it was a fantastic sort of experience, having someone who was very caring towards my employment journey and wanting to do her absolute best to find me that employment.
Yeah, I'm glad you've had such a positive experience with Katrina. I know she's one of our fantastic job coaches, so I'm glad it's worked out for you. At time of recording this podcast now, we're currently in November, which is widely known as Movember, which is sort of focused around building awareness around men's health. Sort of creates a platform for many men to be able to speak up and speak openly about their health concerns and be able to seek support to, I guess, go on to be able to live happier and healthier life. How important has it been for you to be able to seek support and seek help to help you be able to progress in your journey?
It's been very, very important to me. I think admitting to getting that help was a huge step, but once I did, it was a massive weight off my shoulders being able to have someone talk me through the journey and help me get through it. Even just not just professionals, but my family and my partner and my friends were all tremendous helps as well. When I finally managed to open up to them and tell them, hey, I'm having a hard time, even just to have the help to say, hey, I'm having a hard time. Can we just hang out? Can we just play some video games? Watch a TV show together, just sit and be together and have company and know that the person sitting next to you is there for you, even if you don't want to talk about the issues, or sometimes if you do and they want to listen. It was fantastic to get that help.
Like you say, sometimes, professional help is sometimes necessary, but the support of a friend can sometimes be just as important. Like I mentioned to you before, when I lost my eyesight, it's sort of something very hard to manage and cope with, but just having my friends and family there who they don't exactly understand what you're going through, but they're there to support you and sort of, I guess, help you to realize, you can still have fun and still carry on and do all the same things in life.
Yeah. It's just that, just needing that one person to say, hey, come around anytime, you're welcome, and it makes you feel safe.
And why do you think it is that so many men don't seek support, or they'll sort of push themselves to breaking point before they actually then put their hand up and say, all right, I need to speak to someone?
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult one, actually, because a lot of men are different in that aspect. I think from experience or from people that I've talked to, I've got men in my life who have also had trouble opening up about their problems, and it's sometimes feeling like they're losing control over themselves, and a lot of the time they're in this bad mental health state because they've lost control of everything else, and they want to hold on to control of themselves. They want to be able to say, I'm in control of me and I'm in control of my emotions and my mental health. But it's never to say that you're not in control. It's just that sometimes you need some help. And I like to sort of think of it as kind of like you're climbing a ladder to better yourself. And if you don't have anything to lean that ladder against, the ladder's just going to fall over. So you have to have someone to lean on, or you're not going to get any higher on that ladder.
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to put it. And I think it's also breaking down those misconceptions that, I guess, you might be weak or you're not as strong by reaching out or admitting that you might be facing challenges as well.
Yeah. I think that's another point of people just don't, like, a lot of men don't feel strong if they're admitting to help, but it's not saying you're weak. It's just saying that you're, you can't do something on your own, but that's okay. And we're all here for each other.
Yeah, I think, by being vulnerable, that's I guess one of the first steps. You have to be able to be vulnerable and speak up and sort of seek support by admitting that you are struggling. To make November even more significant for men's health, the 19th of November marks International Men's Day. Many people around the world use this day to recognise some of the social challenges that both men and boys face. I just want to mention a couple of the statistics about some of the challenges that men do face, which are really quite shocking. 3 out of 4 suicides are men, 2 out of 3 violent deaths are men, and on average, men typically die 6 years younger. This is incredibly sad and shocking, and what makes this even sadder is that a lot of these deaths could have been prevented if men felt more comfortable to openly speak up and seek the support that they need to help them to be able to deal with their challenges. So how do you think we can encourage more men to speak openly about the challenges they're facing?
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to encouraging that encouragement, I guess. It's the hardest part about being through a mental health battle, or the most daunting part about talking about your mental health and coming forward and speaking openly, is the stigma that it's a bad thing. When your mental health is bad, it must be bad, but it's not that. It's just a growing experience. And if we can sort of promote and say, hey, we're going through something, but let's get through it. And when we're through it, we can celebrate that we did get through it. I think that would be a great start, sort of having that acknowledgement that, hey, you got through it, but great job for getting through it. I think a positive sort of outlook at the end of the tunnel can really help you start the journey.
Yeah. And I guess throughout your journey and experience with mental health, has there been any organisations that you've leaned on for support or that you could recommend today?
I don't have any specifically. I think most of mine have come through just therapists that I've Googled locally, or I did for a little while go to Headspace, which was a fantastic help when I was younger. Unfortunately, I'm not in that age bracket to utilize their help anymore. But when I was in that younger age bracket, they were very fantastic. They had a lot of programs that would also, like, if you're in an instance where you feel alone and like you don't have friends, they have social groups that you can join as well, and activities and just people you can talk to. And yeah, they were great too.
And how do you think employment has played a role in managing your mental health?
I think it's a good distraction. It's a good reason to get out of the house. Sometimes being stuck at home all day long, I was just sort of overthinking and worrying, and being able to get out and talk to another human being. As much as I love my partner, I love her very much. Sometimes she would come home. It would be a bit overwhelming for me to suddenly information dump at her because she's the only person I've talked to that day.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm getting out, talking to other people, and it's helped both me and my relationship. And it's a fantastic thing to just be out and having something to do.
And what would your advice be to other people who might be experiencing similar challenges? What would you suggest to them, I guess, as a starting point towards getting support?
Yeah, I think a good starting point is just sort of a self-reflection, realizing that you might be starting to need some help and identifying where you can get that help. It doesn't have to come from a professional. It doesn't have to be someone you're overly close to either. Sometimes you might feel like talking to your best friend or a good friend might scare them off, and you don't want that. It can be them, but it can also be someone else. No one wants to see anyone else struggling. So there's always help.
Have you found it beneficial to speak to other people who have had the same experiences as you? I know from my own point of view, sometimes it doesn't matter who you speak to, you explain what you're going through. If they have never gone through it, they don't quite grasp what you're trying to say. Do you benefit from speaking to other people with lived experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that they're more willing to lend an ear almost. Not that anyone's not willing, but I'd say when you talk to someone who's been through a similar experience about what you're going through, they can really sort of feel that emotion that you're feeling and help empathize with your situation a bit more. And yeah, I think sometimes it's hard to identify people who've been through something as well, because a lot of people keep that to themselves. I certainly do in some instances keep that to myself, but that's why I think opening up to anyone can help, because you never know who has been through something similar and who could offer a lot more help than you'd think.
Why do you think it's so important to create awareness around these significant dates in November?
Yeah, it's a good help to have those days. Sometimes things like Movember, or even like Are You Okay Day, things like that as well. Sometimes they can feel like a bit of a joke between guys, but there's always, I think, a moment of seriousness behind it, that if we know it's that day or we know it's that month or time, it's this thing that's being talked about. And even if it's spread as a bit of a goof sometimes, it's still talked about, and having it be a conversation brings awareness. No one's going to ignore what it is and just go, oh, what's Movember? What's that mean? We all know what it means. And because of how well it's talked about, it helps identify that issue.
Well, Jackson, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing a little bit about your experience and journey with atWork Australia. Before I let you go, I just wanted to ask, what's the future look like for you? What's next on your employment journey?
Well, hopefully a bit more work with my internship and paid position in the future, but it could be anything really. And I'm open to all opportunities, because any opportunity is an opportunity, and I'm happy to do them all.
You never know where it's going to lead you, so chuck your hat in the ring and have a crack, eh?
That's exactly right.
Well, Jackson, hopefully by, you openly speaking about your mental health, that you might encourage other people to find their voice and speak up and get the support that they need to be able to overcome their challenges.
Not a problem at all. I'm more than happy to. And if anything I've said helps someone, I'd be very glad about it.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to this special edition on International Men's Day. I'd just like to say, if you are struggling and you do need support, please speak up, reach out to your friends, family, or to a professional to get the support you need to help you to overcome whatever challenges that you may be facing within your life. Please refer to the links in our show notes for some guidance on where you can get support from. Thank you very much for listening, and take care.